Hey, what's up, man? What's your name?
Kasozi.
Sozi? My name is Ethan. I'm the co-host of the Cowboys Collective.
Nice to meet you, bro.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, yeah. So essentially, the whole point of the Cowboys Collective is to interview college students and business executives. So far, we've interviewed NFL professional athletes such as Fernando Mendoza, Todd Gurley. We've also interviewed different CEOs, CEO of Belly, Open Table, as well as college students and young entrepreneurs in the health and wellness industry, as well as in all a bunch of different verticals. And I'm here with Sozi today, who's going to be talking about his business and balancing how he is an entrepreneur, as well as a CEO, as well as a full-time college student at BU. And I happen to be a student at BU as well, studying hospitality and real estate, and I want to get more into entrepreneurship. And I'm starting my own startup in the health and wellness. It's a CPG product that I'll be launching very soon. So the whole point of the podcast is to get insights on college students, young athletes, young adults, and young professionals, as well as CEOs who have had the experience for many years. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and we can go from there.
Hey, yeah, what's up, everyone? My name is Kevin Kasozi Nakota Chirunda, the founder and the CEO of SOZI AI Incorporated. We're intelligence meets elevation. What we do is we create AI-powered tools and experiences, but at the moment, we're actually creating a youth digital health platform so that we can get young people to prevent colorectal cancer. Of course, like we're a health tech company, and we're just trying to be able to help young people become aware of the number one leading cause of death in people under 50 as of 2026. A lot of people don't know it. I was actually talking to one of my friends, and he said that colorectal cancer is now like a silent killer. Like a lot of people don't know about it. So we're trying to bring awareness to it instead of all this lengthy information that the American Cancer Society and the CDC and the World Health Organization puts out for young people, and they're not even reading it. We actually get all that information. And of course, we cite them as well. And we put it into a youth digital health platform with interactive challenges, an AI companion, and just a lot of fun for you to have, but also be able to learn about your health.
Perfect. That is a whole lot of great information right there.
Thank you.
Super important. So how were you able to, so what made you get into this industry and really identify this problem? I know it's a growing problem with
Mhm.
colorectal cancer as of 2026. So how are you able to identify that problem and how did you start it?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a lot of people may know, or they may not know, like my names are African, like Kasozi and Nkutu Chirunda, those names actually stem from East Africa, Uganda, which is my family's home country. And we actually loved Black Panther back in the day. So not only have we had family members die of colorectal cancer, and I've also had a coach at my high school die of colorectal cancer as well, but Chadwick Boseman actually, and I believe it was 2020, he died of stage 4 colorectal cancer at age 43. So that really hurt. That hurt seeing that in COVID. I watched Black Panther with my family in 2018, and just seeing the tribute to him in Black Panther 2, it was just so painful. And I realized that colorectal cancer is just killing a lot of people. Even Chadwick didn't tell anyone about colorectal cancer while he was acting all throughout Black Panther and probably a couple other films as well. So it's just a big problem, and I realized that I had to make an impact. And I always knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I tell people all the time, like a lot of people may see me as like a product manager, but for me, I saw myself managing the product manager and leading the company. So I see myself as a CEO, and I always wanted to be the boss.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's really, really important stuff. What I was also thinking about is what you're doing specifically within the business right now. I
Mm,
know you're in the early process of the startup.
mm,
You've done already amazing work, especially with getting, a bunch of users and
mm,
so far and launching the website and
mm,
eventually the app, right?
mm.
So that's all great. Talk to me about what technical skills did you develop, what soft skills did you develop being a CEO, and how do you work with your team specifically, and what do you learn from it, and what do you hope to improve upon?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. I think I think honestly as a CEO, you have to have hard skills and soft skills. So for me, honestly, I've studied programs from like the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, and I've also studied a 7 week, Harvard Secondary School program in 2023. So that's when I took two courses. Actually, I took a cybersecurity course and I took a artificial intelligence
Hmm.
course. So and then at Wharton, this past summer, actually, I studied there, and I was studying social entrepreneurship. I was actually supposed to study AI for business, but as a Christian, I always say this, God has a plan, and social entrepreneurship, that's actually after that program, I started my first company because I was just so hungry for success, even hungrier than I was before. And, I think you have to really know what you're talking about. For me, like we actually hosted our platform. We host our platform on Base 44, which is an AI automation platform. And the AI doesn't do everything. It's kind of vibe coding, so it helps you. But, as a CEO, I have to know what I'm doing. Even when I'm hiring technical guys, I have to know what it is. And, on the soft side, I've always been like people have called me a charmer. People have always said that I got $1 million smile. They told me that before I even knew what $1 million was. So I've just, I always just wanted to, change the world. And I realized that if I was going to do anything, I wanted to be the boss of a company because I think that would help a lot. And I've always known how to talk to people. Sometimes in class, I'd get in trouble for talking too much. But now that I'm here, I think my talking skills ain't that bad.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you.
You laid some great gems there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and my next question is, who is your like you talked about, faith and religion.
Mhm.
What role does that play specifically more in your life?
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. I'm about to get into obviously a touching subject for me. God has done so much for me. As a Christian, honestly, God wakes me up. I look at the earth and I look at the bunnies and the birds, and I see that like we all have a creator. And I realize that, of course, there's a lot of religions, but Jesus says that he's the way, the truth, and the life, and no one may come to the Father but through him. So a lot of people believe other things, but for me, I believe in, the one true God, the one who sent his only begotten son to die on the cross for our sins, Jesus Christ. And when God wakes me up, I know I have to work hard. When I was born, I realized that I wanted to be the best. A lot of people may think that I want to be on top, but I actually want to be the top dog. So
Mm.
there's a
Yes,
there's a big difference. When you want to be on top, you're comparing yourself to other people, and when you're on top, you think that there's people below you. But for me, I wanted to be the top dog, and that just means I want to be the best, and I'm not comparing myself to anybody. If they beat me, that's fine, but I'm looking for them next time. So
yeah,
friendly competition, but when we're competing, we're not friends.
yeah. And to build upon that, how do you define that success and being that top dog? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I feel like it's a great question. For me, I just want to be the best in the industry. I started off at 19 years old. So honestly, at times as a CEO, you're gonna feel like you don't know what you're doing. I wake up in the morning sometimes and I'm like, man, like it's kind of crazy how far I've come. For our LinkedIn, we have 130 followers. We put out job listings on LinkedIn. I've introduced myself for the interviews that I do as the founder and the CEO of SOZI AI, but I think SOZI had to figure out what SOZI AI was about
Mm.
most of the time. And I realized that, to be the top dog, I want to be the best in the industry. I don't just want to be a guy who people, oh, that health tech entrepreneur. No, I want to be the health tech entrepreneur. I want to be the best to ever do it. And, I know I'm going to figure it out, but, I got a lot of time ahead of me. So right now, I'm just going to focus on the time while we're in this
Awesome.
interview.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. And my last question is, what specific traction have you had with a little bit about your company,
Mm.
SOZI AI, and what do you hope to see in the progression of the timeline overall? So just talk about the timeline.
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now we're focusing on, I could even say organic outreach.
Mhm.
So we're not really focusing more on the marketing side. Of course, we're trying to hire for a marketer, but it is hard. You put out these job listings and sometimes people say that they want an interview and then, you're messaging them back and forth. And then all of a sudden you pull up to the interview and they don't want to show up. Or sometimes you tell people like, hey, we're interested and they're not interested. They tell you that they're interested, then they're not interested, then they're interested again. So it's just all confusing. In business, I think there's a lot of inconsistency, but as a CEO, you have to stay consistent. So that's exactly what I do. And yeah, I could say that right now we've just, of course, like we have over 100 users and we actually have 9 5-star reviews. So people love our platform, but to get people to, I can even say to get the hype around the name, I gotta be able to give something. I gotta be able to give people something. They say that line, scratch someone's back and they'll scratch yours. So I've just been going around campus, giving out cookies and giving out gummies and all these things, talking to people about the platform that we've had. And a lot of people have been saying it's a good cause. So I think that's what keeps me going. Of
Awesome. Thank you, Sozi. Appreciate it. A
course,
lot
man.
to learn from you, man. A lot to learn.
Appreciate it,
Yeah,
man.
we're on
Yeah.
the journey together,
Yes, sir.
Learn. I'm trying to start my own thing as well. We got to take advantage of being in college and using those opportunities that we have there as well, and finding that time to balance and find yourself and believe in God and find your faith. So
Yeah.
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, no, I can even say this, for me, I've actually had like a good amount of haters along the way. And a lot of people may think that haters don't matter, but when people hate on you, it kind of gets to you at a certain point. So you have to know that this is kind of something I learned along the way that you're the main character of your own story. And I think once you figure out that you're the main character of your own story, a lot of people will make it their main priority to take you down. And that's exactly what happened with me. But, I'm still here. I started my own company. I make content on the internet. People are going to hate, but haters never win in the end. If you want to be the hero of your own story, eventually there's going to be villains that you encounter along the way, but they're never going to win because the hero, good, always, as I said, like the hero always wins, good always beats evil.
That's so tough, man.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it,
it,
man.
bro. Let's go.